walks into the close-up.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, wait a minute. He's like remembering what he heard, and and he realizes.
And we're live.
That's a good example of because the movie was
Chat.
Explain the scene better.
The scene was shot for.
Explain the scene better.
I will. The movie was shot for very little money. We had no money to make it, so I had to shoot the entire upstairs first and then the downstairs, because it's like doing a company move. But I knew that when writing, and this was sort of a kind of a rule that we had was, one, make a genre movie. Two,
explain the scene.
I'm going to.
I said explain the scene. Don't tell me what you felt about at that moment. You missed the exit.
The scene was a replacement for another scene that was in the movie that was too expensive to shoot. That's the short of it.
What does that have to do with what I like?
What I replaced it with was, and I had to fight for it, was a single shot. Because originally he goes downstairs and he sees a bunch of guys coming in through the sewer. So he starts machine gunning people in the sewer. Because there was like a little sewer manhole in the bottom of the bank. I was like, oh, let's use that. And so I had this whole thing. And the Bond company showed up, and you're behind schedule, and you've got to you've got to cut pages, and I couldn't cut anything, and I'm shooting upstairs, downstairs stuff, and so it's like I had to have something because he leaves the scene and then comes back angry, and so I knew I needed to have something, and originally I had this whole scene where the cops are coming in and he reacts to that, and so I said, well, okay, I just need one shot, and because it's all I had time to do because of the fucking Bond company. And so I set up, which were actually really cool to me. They were actually, Film Finances was great. I just set up a single camera. I asked for a kind of a Kubrickian lens, a nice wide, like maybe a 14 millimeter lens. And I just had John Hughes walk up into a close-up, and I just had him I said, just walk into a close-up and just start looking around and just start seeing things coming out of the walls.
Well, okay.
And
no.
Is that the shot you're talking about? And he does like a little magic trick beforehand, like.
No.
That's not the one you're talking about?
No.
That's the great shot. That's a great shot.
No, the scene I'm talking about is, but that's why I wanted you to explain it because I hadn't seen it in a long time. But it was.
There it is.
Match
that's the
found.
shot.
That's the shot I'm talking about. Look, he's looking into the walls. He's looking around.
But I thought the whole idea about it is the idea that
I added those lines of dialogue in.
no, but I
did
thought
some ADR.
I thought the whole idea. I thought the whole idea is he puts it all together. He realizes that there's something going on, that the cops are doing this, or Eric Stoltz is dirty with him. All that, and it all hits him. He's ready to do something else, and he walks into a close-up, and it all hits him. But now we, the audience, know what's going on.
Yep.
And then he's just like.
Well, it just shows that sometimes if you can't do what you want to do, what you come up with is better. And this was an example of it rained that day, and I had to use the rain. That's sort of the example.
I know, but the frustrating part for me about what you're talking is like I don't care how the sausage was made. I like the sausage. I wanted you to talk about the sausage, not the factory.
You don't want to know what's in that sausage.
Yeah, I wanted to
have no
I wanted
interest
to hear
in
about
that.
the Italian sweetness.
Well, it was very sweet, but it started off sour. It started off sour because I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And so I just came up with something that was, well, he puts it together in his head. I
still think that sequence is exhilarating because it all boils down to an actor's face.
Well, I had Tom Savini on the set because, and I couldn't afford Tom Savini, but I found his number, and before I shot, I called him up in Pittsburgh, and I said, Tom Savini's a makeup effects artist who did Dawn of the Dead.
He did all the effects for Dawn of the Dead.
And not to mention all the great Friday the 13th, all the slasher movies.
He's the superstar of practical makeup effects of horror films of that era.
He was in Vietnam and saw some shit. And every time I'm talking to him about stuff, he's like, oh yeah, well, no, if you're bleeding from back here, there's only 2 small veins and blah, blah, because when your head gets knocked off, he's seen all this stuff, and so this is his way of processing it. But Tom came in, and I couldn't afford him. I called him up on the phone. I was like, hey, do you think I'm a young filmmaker? I'm your biggest fan. I like the makeup effects, blah, blah, blah. Okay, he flew himself out. We had no money to pay him. I think we paid him some tiny amount. He flew himself to LA, put himself up, worked on the film, and he made that burn makeup on that burned guard in the vault out of Vaseline paint and tissue paper. and I watched him make. It was the most unbelievable thing how he made blisters and burn effects, and it was like watching one of the great artists work. Tom is the incredible guy. He's an incredible guy.
Where you were asking earlier on about, you're working at a video store. Did you ever think, when did you start thinking about making your own stuff? Well, I was thinking about making my own stuff for like a long time, but these guys were actually doing it. But there is the truth. While I thought about it like for a long time, and always figured I would do that eventually, I did fall asleep for a few years. It was because working at that store, I just got caught up in the little life there, and it's interesting because you spent your 20s going to comedy clubs and building a career. So I'm spending my 20s there, and it's one of those things where it's like, this isn't my dream. This isn't what I wanted to do, working at a video store for years. I wanted to actually make movies. It's not my dream, what I'm doing. But it's dream adjacent. It's close to my dream. I get to watch movies all fucking day. I get to talk about movies all fucking day. I don't have to work at a pizza parlor. I'm not delivering pizzas. I'm not busting ass as a bartender. I'm not busting ass doing menial jobs. I mean, this is the kind of job I do if I'd go to the store if I wasn't paid to go to the store. So it's like, but for a couple of years, it did put me to sleep. It did kind of put me to sleep. It put my ambitions to sleep for a little bit because I was happy enough.
Yeah.
I was happy enough. And just one of these days, I'll...
Right, but you didn't have the fire.
I didn't have the fire. And when I got the fire, when I eventually got the fire back again, and it was a life-changing day. It was a life-changing day. It was, we had a buddy of ours named Steve-O.
Yeah.
And he was one we had different living arrangements, and at one point in time, me and Steve-O were living in the same house together, renting in the back towards the back of the store.
The dude house.
Yeah. It was where everyone would hang out. And, but now Steve-O was older than the rest of us. So he was almost 5 years older than us, but he didn't seem like it. He was a young guy.
Yeah, like 5 years younger mentally. Or emotionally.
Yeah. And, but...
I'll tell you.
So he hits 30. And he starts changing. He starts changing, drastically. He was one of the funniest guys I ever knew, and he was this really funny stoner dude and really cool. And all of a sudden, he's angry about things. And now he's not quite as funny, and now he's got this issue. And so we're roommates. And there's this one night that he's he's kind of disgusted with his life. And he starts ranting. And he's describing a situation that was very common if you were a kid growing up without a degree or anything in the 80s, especially in California, where it's you can't get any really good jobs, but you can work at Licorice Pizza, and if you're an okay employee, you could work at Licorice Pizza for a couple of years, and maybe you could even become assistant manager or a manager, and maybe they send you to another store, and maybe you work there for 3 years, and that's really great. But then, all of a sudden, the district manager doesn't like you. You run afoul of somebody higher up in corporate, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're fired and you're on the street.
Again, it's management.
Yeah. Okay. And so now you've just spent 3 years at Licorice Pizza. Now you could get a job at TRW or some place that's a real job. Or, those are kind of hard to get. You can work at Warehouse Records and Tapes tomorrow because you just had 3 years at Licorice Pizza.
No one in Maine.
Same thing with Wild West Clothier. Same thing with Miller's Outpost. Same thing with any of these kind of stores. Next thing you know, you're 28, and the only jobs you've ever had are minimum wage jobs behind a counter that were designed for kids to pay for their gas.
Enemy remaining.
Right.
And you've spent your entire 20s doing that.
And then you start getting bitter.
But he was not just bitter about the job aspect. I knew oh my God, he's telling me the truth. I'm learning
My
something
ult's
here.
ready. Spike's dead.
Because he
You're
goes,
welcome.
Quentin, you think that we're this really great
My Lola was right.
team, we're
Weeds are
this really
difficult
great
to kill.
crew. Well, we are. I mean, this is that time of your 20s where, like, your group of friends or your family, And, like, well, we are. Quentin, at 20, I worked at South Bay Cinemas. And I hung out with a bunch of guys just like you. And some girls there, too. But it was a bunch of guys just like you. And then I stopped working at South Bay Cinema. Then I worked at Miller's Outpost.
Where are you?
And hung out with a bunch of guys just like you, and we did everything just like we do. We went to movies together. We went out and we dated amongst the girls there. Everything. Yeah. Then I worked at Alicia Pizza for 4 years with a bunch of guys just like you. I wasted my life hanging out with a bunch of guys just like you, and they all go away at a certain point. And I realized this guy's kind of telling the truth. He's showing me a truth about him. This is coming from somewhere. And then all of a sudden, he still hung around us. He still liked us. But then he started making it a point to touch base with some of his high school friends
Boss coming back.
that were still around. So he's not just hanging out with guys 4 years younger or 5 years younger than him. Anyway, I'm turning 25 around this time. So I'm having my own little, okay, well, what have I done with my life so far? So far, fucking nothing. So I'm having my own little anxiety hitting 25, but I'm seeing what it's like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
When you turn 30.
30
A window
seconds
to the
left.
future.
When you're
Yeah.
30 and you're in this
Spike
situation.
planted.
And there was like one
enemy
night
remaining.
that I had what I used to call, I would do it every once in a while. I haven't done it in a long time. Thank
What's up, Only Pigeon?
I would have a Quentin to Test Fest where I'd stay up all night long, and rather than
How are
give
you?
myself excuses,
I feel like it's been a while since I've seen
everything
you.
that I'm fucking up in my life, or everything I'm not doing, or whatever, and just not give myself any fucking excuses out. Just like nail it.
Feeling
I
on my
would
work
spend,
right now?
like all night
Fuck yeah.
laying out everything I'm doing that's wrong, and then I would spend the last 2 hours figuring out how I
How
can
about
change
you?
it.
You doing alright? I'm
As
watching this
opposed to just doing it and then
Quentin
going to get
Tarantino
some
podcast
sleep,
with Joe Rogan.
and then you forget about it and fall back into your
Trying to
you know,
carry this
your
team.
routine.
Look at my score.
I decided to change my life. I was like, look, the problem is that I'm living in the South Bay, and even though I drive to Los Angeles, I gotta not worry about this job anymore. I gotta just move to Hollywood. I gotta get involved there. I gotta meet other people that are in the business, and if I have to work manpower jobs, where you just work like 4 days at this place and 4 days at that place, well, then that's fine. And by the way, I shouldn't be making money until I'm making money doing what I want to do. And not that was ever in danger. All right, but then the next thing I knew, I moved out of the South Bay, and then I couldn't move into Hollywood. I couldn't afford Hollywood, but I could afford Koreatown, and that was close enough. And literally the minute I kind of moved out there, I met a guy who wrote low-budget horror movies, and then through him I met other guys that wrote low-budget horror movies, and this guy who directs a few low-budget horror, and this guy who produces a couple. And but yeah, you meet one person, and that introduces you to 3 other people. Now all of a sudden, I actually knew people who were actually making movies. And the other thing about it was like, also, well, if these guys can do it, I can do it. Because they weren't too special.
Right.
Yeah. That's the weird realization that you end up having.
Yeah, and then literally, it wasn't like everything changed, but like within a year and a half from moving out of the South Bay and moving into the Hollywood area, within a year and a half, I was finally able to make a living as a writer. Getting like a $7,000 for this rewrite on the script over here. $4,000 for this polish over here, another $10,000 for this rewrite over here. Well, shit. I mean, I made $10,000 a year through all my 20s before that point. So, if I can make $15,000 from writing, oh my God, that was the greatest thing in the world.
Wow. But it just takes being around people that are actually doing it, so you realize it's possible.
Well, it's the realizing it's possible, but it's also a situation where it's like,
I know
as opposed to talking to your buddies about comedy in Minnesota.
Find you.
Your buddies who like comedy. No, you're at the Comedy Store and you're dealing with comedians every fucking night.
Yes.
And you're in the place where the shit happens, and you're hearing how the laughs work. But also, like, you know what's going on. Oh, Caroline's Comedy Hour is doing a tryout for this. And Chuckles is doing this thing or that thing. Oh, and there's a sitcom going on. There's the funny neighbor guy.
Yeah.
At any moment,
You're plugged in.
yeah, at any moment, there's a circle of people rising in any industry.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of finding those people, and those people will all gravitate towards the same things.
Yeah, they have the thing where it's sort of like,
Weapon
hey,
here.
Benny, we have a spot for you that could be really, I can't do it. But my friend Joe could do it. Can you, how about giving Joe a chance?
Yeah.
Okay, will you back Joe up? Yeah, I'll back Joe up. Okay, yeah, let's call your friend Joe. Can he be down here at 9? Yeah, he can be down here at 9. Well, that's how you get a fucking gig.
This is exactly what we tried to do when we built the mothership here. What we've done. We decided when we left LA, like, we need a place where comics have a hub. And when we were all in Austin, we all just moved to Austin because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we were allowed to perform indoors. It was crazy. In November of 2020, we were doing shows indoors. And you couldn't go on Twitter because they would call you a big super spreader, a fucking monster. But everybody started moving here. By the time 2020 rolls around, there's like 15, 16 world-class comedians that didn't used to live in Austin that are here now. And we were like, let's build a club. And so we bought the Ritz Theater, where some of your movies play. It's fucking crazy. And when we put it together, the whole idea was like have a place where people can come. We have 2 nights of open mic nights, Sunday and Monday night. So there's always a chance to get on stage. There's always a guy. There's a real talent. Adam Egan is a real talent coordinator. He's really gonna watch you. He's really gonna give you advice. And you're around the best comics in the world all the time. And everybody knows it's possible. And everybody treats you the way you would want to be treated if you were starting. So you're just one of us. You just started, but you're not. We're not better than you. We're not. There's nothing special about us. We're just telling you. We started walking, and now we're 15 miles in. You're 15 feet in. Just keep walking.
Okay, but let me ask you a question, because when I watch some of the things on the Comedy Store now, because I really love going to the comedy.
Yeah.
One enemy remains.
And they treat me really great there. It's really cool. All right.
30 seconds left. Gotta go.
But
Weapon here.
the mythology of the place is you go down there on open mic night, and if you have something to offer,
Yeah.
then you work your way up, and then you're the doorman, and then you work your way up. But it seems like that was then. That was a long time ago. Now it seems like people are almost spending 10 years, right, or 8 years before they actually are getting up and getting paid.
Not necessarily. Like Tony Hinchcliffe started at the Comedy Store. He started as a doorman, and he worked his way up to selling out Madison Square Garden 2 nights in a row. I mean, it is possible to still be a doorman. I met Tony when he was just starting out.
I'm figuring that's a spot, but it seems like, if you have to wait 5 years.
Well, you don't get good for 10 years.
Okay.
It takes forever. Comedy is like making a mountain out of layers of paint. It takes forever.
You have to fail.
Yeah.
You have to have the opportunities to fail.
Well, there's also no one to tell you how to do
my
it.
God.
Like writing
That
a
was a
film,
really,
like
really
you,
good,
you have a protagonist, you have the antagonist, you have a plot, you have a bunch of stuff that you can kind of create and formulate.
One
Would
enemy remaining.
you really say that it takes 10 years to be a solid comedian?
It takes 10 years to be a real headliner, like a guy.
Headline, that's a little different. That's a little
Well,
different.
that's when you're a real comic.
Yeah,
when you
okay.
can do an hour. You can do an hour, and then you could write another hour. You kind of know who you are.
Because it takes years to build that.
Well, also
that
to be a headline, you
path,
have to be enough of a. You have to be enough of a name of a draw to actually draw an audience.
Yes, and you have to. Usually, you go on the road with a headliner, and then the people get to see you. Oh, I remember he was here when Tom Segura was in town. That guy's really good. We saw him then, and he did 15 minutes. Now he's going to do an hour. This should be great. And it's sort of that kind of a deal. But it's the same sort of situation where most people don't. Like if you're in Pittsburgh, you don't know what to do. You go up. There's a couple open mic nights. Everybody sucks.
Last player
And
standing.
there's no inspiration.
It's not set up for comedy, and it's in
Right.
a fucking pizza parlor.
Exactly. And it's good on the
and
weekends.
it doesn't work, and you go, well, I guess this is not for me.
Right. It's good on the weekends because they'll fly in, Craig Fitzsimmons, some headliner,
Nice.
and you get to see a real comic for a weekend, so you get a little bit of an education from that. And maybe if you're lucky, the club owner will let you open for him or do 10 minutes on that show, and you kind of like get a feel what it's like to perform in front of a real audience that's there to see a real comic. But you got to be around. Like, comedy doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's no great comedian that lives in some small town by himself. Like, you can find some great blues artist.
Or a great novelist.
Yes, novelist is probably the best one because you kind of live in your own head.
Yeah.
But you have to be around the other people that are doing it.
Which is exactly why Quentin moved to Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
Get away from these losers.
You had to do it, but you really do have
Cut
to
the
do
dead
it.
weight.
I recall living in Hollywood as well.
Yeah,
I
you
lived
did.
on freaking Franklin.
Yes, you
across
did.
from Plummer Park.
Your bitter friend gave you a valuable little piece of information.
Yeah, he did. No, very much so.
You need those. You need those moments.
Oh, I knew I was hearing the truth. And I knew I was hearing a coming attraction.
Yeah.
Because I was already feeling it at 25.
Right,
That
right.
Am I throwing my topsoil years away?
Right. Topsoil. Exactly. It doesn't come back.
It doesn't come back.
You never get to be 21 again. Let's hit reset. Yeah. You get one weird march through this life. And if you don't, if you
Yeah, you
haven't
can throw it away until 23, but from 24 on, you need to be thinking about what you're doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Yeah, get it going.
Yeah.
I think these conversations are so important for young people.
Thinking about what you're doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Yeah, get it going. I think these conversations are so important for young people to hear. Because there's a lot of people out there that do have ideas, and sometimes they have a little bit of a fire, and then maybe they have a job that's kind of cool, like yours was, and they get sedated.
Almost the worst thing that can happen is getting comfortable, which I think is what you were talking about.
Yeah. But, I mean, it all worked out, okay? It all worked out really, really good. And the thing about it was,
Remember, when it's hurt.
I did get comfortable, but I got comfortable in a cool place. And ultimately, I did have the energy and the wherewithal to ultimately get dissatisfied with it and want more. The alternative would have been me working at a department store for those 4 years.
Yes, right.
And then I would have been really miserable.
Right.
Here I'm able to, in this instance, I'm still involved with, the part that, the sedative part was the idea that it was close enough to what I wanted.
Right.
It was close enough. I could get comfortable.
There's guys like that at the Comedy Store. There's a friend of mine at the Comedy Store that was he was a bartender in the back bar, and he wanted to be a comic.
Yeah.
But he was there. It was like 5 years after I met him. I'm like, hey man, you got to quit this fucking job. Because you're here with all the greatest comics in the world, but you're not going on stage. Because you're making good money, and that's the velvet curtain, that's pulled over your eyes. Like,
I worked on Lords of Dogtown, the movie about Zephyr surfboards and skateboarding and polyurethane wheels and surfing. And I'm not like a surfer or anything, but my entry point into that movie was Zephyr surfboards was exactly like Video Archives.
One enemy remaining.
And I imagine this is like this in a lot of places where, you have a shop. They make they do skateboards, and they've got a shaper guy there, Skip Englum, who's a surfboard shaper, and he was sort of like Lance, the guy who owned Video Archives. And he started a shop, and he's selling to all the kids locally, and all the kids who love surfing, like Stacy Peralta or Tony Alva or guys like that, they would just go hang out there, just like we would go hang out at the video store. And so I looked at that, and I was like, okay, I don't really know anything about these guys other than growing up in the beach community, but my real entry point was I understand gravitating towards what you love and wanting to be close to it, and that if a video store is the closest thing to Hollywood in your town, that's where you go, or if it's not a movie theater. And so,
well, it was funny because when I started at the video store, it was great because
Why is he?
like I said, I got to hang out in this place that I enjoyed, and I'm surrounded by movies and talking about movies
access
all the
to
time.
all those titles.
But then there was also the situation of, I became like a little film critic in that town. It was like I was like the store was my little Village Voice, and I was the Andrew Saris there. I was the critic, and people would come in. And at a certain point, like, oh, Quentin, what should I get? And the thing is, I'm not just like holding court on my own personal taste. Pretty soon, they got a really good idea about my taste. But the thing is, I'm usually gearing it towards the people. I'm not gonna, get some housewife to watch some Gonzo movie that Gonzo violent movie that I really like. I'm gaming. I get to know her.
You have to tailor it.
And so I'm putting something in her hand that I think she's gonna appreciate it. I kind of know what kind of comedy she likes. I know who she likes and stuff like that. And so I'm like really kind of gearing it in a certain way, and that felt really good. It felt like I felt like a film critic.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I forgot I was gonna go somewhere with that, and I forgot. I lost my train of thought. All right. But one of the things that ended up happening, and I hope I didn't say it last time I was here, that ended up happening is we became really famous in the neighborhood. We were the video guys.
Yeah.
And, our store was a little different than most of the businesses that were in Manhattan Beach. And so everyone kind of knew us. We were the video guys. So in a strange way, it was a precursor to what it would be like to be famous where the whole world kind of knows about you like that. In Manhattan Beach, I'm like walking down the street and people are like, "Hey, Quentin! Hey, Quentin! Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" I'm like, I'm working at the store. I'm walking to the Jack in the Box to get a Coke and come back. And then, I'm like walking down the street and people are like, "Hey, Quentin! Hey, Quentin! Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" I'm like, I'm working at the store. I'm walking to the Jack in the Box to get a Coke and come back. And then, we'd walk into the man's movie theater. All right, that was by the theater, and me and two of the guys would walk in to go see a movie, and we walk down the aisle and we hear, "Hey, those are the Video Archives guys. Those are the Video Archives guys."
Oh yeah, I was in San Francisco once, and the guys from Red Cross, the punk band, they were customers of ours. I was like, "Oh, they're doing a signing at this local record shop. I'll just go show up. I'll just show up there on Haight-Ashbury." And I walk in, and immediately the McDonald Brother guys were like, "Hey, it's the video store guy. Hey, man, come back behind with us." I don't think they talk like that.
They kind of talk like that.
It's good to get that slow drip, get a little bit of a taste of it before you actually get famous. Just to get a feel of what it's like.
It still doesn't give you the full. It's like, I'm just going to smoke a little weed compared to I'm going to mainline,
Well,
heroin.
oddly enough, the thing that it did was it made me feel part of a community, which I had never felt with before. I actually felt part of the Manhattan Beach community.
Yeah.
I felt part of the Manhattan Beach community. I was part of the Manhattan Beach community. The people knew me there. And I was an upstanding member inside of that community.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fame thing is no one can teach you how to do that. There's someone. There needs to be like a group of people that get together with people that are about to get famous and say, "Hey, listen, we're famous already. Let me tell you how fucking weird this is." And I don't know if you were prepared for this.
When we were first trying to make True Romance, Quentin had this amazing screenplay, and it was like we were going to try to do it Coen Brothers style. We had just seen Blood Simple, and we were like, okay, I'm going to produce, Quentin's going to direct, we're going to go out and make this. Our first thought was, okay, we've got this database of doctors and lawyers and housewives in Manhattan Beach. We're going to go to the video store. We ended up not doing that.
You were going to ask them for money.
We never had the balls to actually ask anybody for money.
Yeah, it was.
We talked
Thinking about getting money and actually getting money
We
are two different
strategized
things.
about it a lot, but we never actually.
I drew up full partnership papers before before that whole dream failed of doing it that way.
Yeah, nobody knows what it's like to actually be successful until you are. But in the beginning, did you guys feel like pretenders? Did you feel fake? Did you have imposter syndrome?
I didn't have imposter syndrome because I did a movie and I was really happy with the film. But the thing is, what I felt like, I'll tell you exactly how I felt. I didn't feel imposter syndrome. Well, I guess a little bit. There is all of that, like, you're waiting for somebody to tap you on the shoulder.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? Get out of here.
Yeah.
All right.
They wouldn't let that guy in.
Right.
70 on
But-
Bench.
What I had was, I felt like I was a reporter deep undercover, all right, on the opposite side of the line.
Right.
This isn't really me. I'm like those people over there, all right?
Right,
But I'm deep undercover.
Right.
And I can give you reports from the front of
Right.
what it's like here on the battle line.
Right. Right. Well, maybe that was a good thing, though.
It was a really cool thing.
Because
It
I
was
think
neat.
that's one of the things you did with your films is you did shit that was very risky. Like we're talking about executives and all these different management people that are going to come in and fuck with your thing and don't do that and cut that out. But you had a sensibility, not of a person in management, but of a person that I know what I like. I know what I like, and I think I can think differently than these people do.
Oh no, one of the things we talked about, we had a little theory about it. What was that gave us a bit of a superpower when we were first brought into. Once we established ourselves, that people knew they had read our script, so you knew we had something to offer. We would walk into rooms and we realized that. And look, I'm not here to make fun of Hollywood executives. Some of those guys, look. You don't know how bad some of these scripts are. Oftentimes they actually make them better.
Yeah.
They're really, really terrible. All right. When they go through the sausage factory, oftentimes they get better. Believe it or not. But the thing is, though, you'd walk in there and you don't become
One enemy remaining.
this super successful executive by doubling down on your own opinions. You kind of want to get the temperature and get a consensus going on. You're not the maverick. That's not how people establish themselves as executives. The D girl doesn't become the head of the development process by being the punk rock person who's shooting for the plimsolls. They're looking for a Rolling Stone. But
Let's go.
film people, film geeks, and film buffs.
Gotta go.
The one thing they have is their opinion. And they have spent years defining their opinion. And they almost have nothing to show for their dedication to cinema other than their highly evolved opinion. So you put them in a room and say, well, what would you do? Well, it's about time you asked me. And then all of a sudden you take the strong point of view. And the term in Hollywood is he who has the strongest point of view. He who has the strongest point of view in the room wins.
Yeah.
And executives don't have the strongest point of view.
Sure.
But the maverick artist who only can hear the sound of his own voice, he definitely has the strongest point of view.
Right.
But it's refreshing to them.
Yes.
Invariably they hire you because you scare them a little. You're a little scary, and they like that. They want to be like a little thrilled by that.
Right.
But then, like a girlfriend or something, they want to change you. They think they're going to make you normal.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
And then it falls on you to just stay true to that initial guy who was in the room.
I had a really interesting situation where I had a guy who was an executive who actually directed a movie. And he was talking, and they're like, I've seen these jokers out there, and, what they do isn't so special. I think I could do it. And so he finds a book, and then they adapt it, and now he's doing the movie. And he's getting through it. Everything's working fine. He's getting through it. And then he realizes the difference between himself and a director, because there's he's dealing with another director about something, because he's an executive. So he's dealing with another director about another movie, and he asks him a very important question about his movie. And the way he answers it, he realized the difference between him and that director. And he goes, I realized, see, he's a real director because he sees the movie.
Yeah.
He sees the movie in his head. The question I asked, he went into his head and he saw it. He saw it. And he could actually answer it. The flower pot is green. Because he sees the entire picture.
Yeah.
And I don't see it. I'm just doing my best. I see it written, all right, but I don't see the movie in my head. I'm just doing my best with the written material.
He's the Comedy Central executive that thinks they could be a comedian.
Yeah. Right on.
And then they get on stage and they eat shit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, God. What you were saying is exactly what happened to Chappelle.
Oh,
The Chappelle Show.
Yeah.
They loved him. He's this wild dude, and then all of a sudden, this is too wild. This is becoming
We can
really
change him.
successful.
We'll make
we
him
can
normal,
change
yeah.
you. They want him to stop saying the N word. They want him to stop a bunch of different things on the show.
And we'll give you all this money
We're gonna
if you roll over.
They gave him literally the devil's deal. We're going to give you $50 million, and this is what you're going to get. And he's like, no, I quit. I quit everything, and I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to hang out in Africa for a while, and I'm going to quit stand-up for 10 years and come back and still be the best.
that is so the right move.
Oh my God! Well, look, he's
That
a
is-
legend
yeah.
now, but that's really him. If you're around him, he's an artist in like the truest sense of the word.
absolutely.
You know,
he is.
when I was young, one of my first jobs was actually given to me by one of our customers, this guy John Langley, who did that show Cops. And so, like, he was, getting his power turned off and stuff, like, constantly. And he was struggling to get by, and he would do these little things with Geraldo Rivera that Quentin and I would work on as PAs every now and then. And
The Dolph Lundgren exercise video.
we worked on the Dolph Lundgren exercise
We did.
video
We were
together.
PAs on the Dolph
Yeah,
Lundgren
we were
exercise video.
picking up dog shit in Venice Beach with our hands so that Dolph could do aerobics on that little grassy knoll.
Hilarious.
And so, I'm like I'm a PA working for him, a driver. I'm running around town. My car is like, the transmission is going out. I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do? This is not what I want to do. I don't want to work on Cops, but like, I need the job. And so I go in and I meet with John, and he's been a customer of ours, and he's fatherly like to me.
Yeah.
And I go into his office and I sit down, and Cops has just started. And it started because of a Writers Guild strike. And, there was a Writers Guild strike, and so Fox was like, well, that show has no writers. And so they ordered his thing, and he went from nothing to, like, I'm buying yachts.
Yeah.
I'm collecting vineyards.
Not only that, though. I remember when he first came up with the idea with his partner, Malcolm Barber.
Yeah.
All right, so he comes in and he's like, hey, we've got a really good idea for a show. So he's describing Cops before Cops has ever been made.
Yeah.
And his first idea was, it wasn't called Cops, it was called The Real Miami Vice.
The problem was it doesn't scale out to the whole country like Cops did.
Yeah.
He,
Well, they defined it. They refined it. As
I asked him, I said, John, like, you've worked, in this business a long time. He was an AD for a long time. What kind of advice can you give to a guy like me who's trying to, work my way up? He's like, well, what do you want to do ultimately? I said, well, I want to direct films. Well, then be a director. Don't work your way up the ladder. Don't try to be a grip and work your way in. Just be a director. And I heard that. And he's like, start at the top. It's the best way to go. Just start at the top and, just tell people you're a director. Put yourself in that. Otherwise, people will just pigeonhole you. They'll just say that's who he is. He's a grip, or he's a PA, or he's. You'll have to work your way up. Just tell people who you are. So I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I quit. And he's like, what? I said, I quit. I'm a director. And I left. I walked out. I gave him notice, and I walked out, and he sat there, and he later told me, years later, man, I thought that was the most audacious, ballsy thing. That I gave you advice and you took it right away. And okay, never mind the fact that it took me years of just telling people I'm a director. I directed Super 8 movies. Like, I was not a director. I was a poser. I was faking it until I made it. But I told people what I was and what I was doing, and eventually it stuck.
found.
Eventually, enough people hear it, and all those people who you end up going into a room and pitching your idea, and they say no, eventually they see you at Cannes running around, trying to do foreign sales. They're like, hey, maybe that kid is a director. That was all it was just believing in yourself.
It's funny, that guy.
When no one else believes what you believe.
The guy he's talking about, John Langley, who created Cops.
Lock
It
it.
was, he was a really good customer, and his wife Maggie was really lovely. She came.
You got
Morgan,
Ken's
all of his
everything
kids.
good.
And I heard the story, came back to me later, that, when I got the deal to make Reservoir Dogs, just little by little through the Manhattan Beach community, they started, hearing, oh, hey, Quentin's making his movie.
Yeah.
Quentin got his movie off the ground. He's actually making his movie. He's not at the video store anymore. He's actually making a movie. Good for him. And who knows what's going to happen to it, but it's happening. And I think they were having a little dinner party at their house, and then Maggie mentions to John about what happened. Really? That's actually happened? It's actually happening? Yeah, no, they've got production offices and everything. They're making the movie. He goes, everybody, raise your glass.
Yeah.
To Quentin. He did it. Good for Quentin.
That's
Raise
awesome.
your glass. I'm getting teary-eyed just even thinking
That's
about
awesome.
it.
You know, I just have to say, John Langley,
So cool.
you know, because I had some shit happen to me in my life. I spent some time in jail. I kind of screwed up my life. But when everything went down, when everyone in Hollywood dropped me like a hot rock, John Langley was there. Our customer, John Langley, because we lost everything. He loaned me some money. He gave me my first job when I got out of jail, writing something for very little money, but he wanted me back in the saddle.
I love the things you wrote from jail.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They were really good. It was really interesting. It was like this like super intelligent writer who's in jail. You know? It's a different sort of perspective.
Roger's working on a book about his jail experiences that is fantastic.
I kept a really super detailed journal about like everything that's going on around me, and you know, it became a really, I mean, that was a very intense experience, being placed into a room, having the doors closed, and you're just left with yourself. And everything, all your things which define you get stripped away. Everything gets kind of dropped, and you lose who you are, and you're just left with your remorse and regret for why you're there. And you have a lot of time to think about things. And, but having said that, as a writer, there was a concrete bench that I could sit on. I had golf pencils. I could buy sheets of paper. And I've never in my life been more productive. I've never wanted to write more than when everything was taken away. And I've never felt more about the world. And I've never, it was a very monastic, I was telling Quentin at one point, it was kind of monastic-like, you know, you're in a secular kind of, you're in a cell, and you're with a bunch of god dudes and you're writing, you know, it's like I became a scribe. I was a scribe beforehand, but it became my escape, being able to write, being able to fall into things and to be able to travel into another world. And then also people find out you're a writer and they're like, hey man, would you write essay, would you write my girlfriend? You know, I want to write her a love letter. I need your help. So I wrote like a ton of love letters.
That's actually good practice for dialogue.
Oh yeah, no,
right?
totally. No, actually I heard some amazing dialogue.
And you're writing your Robin Hood script, all right? And so that's your way to get out of the cell, is to write his Robin Hood script.
There's a book cart, and so I'm, you know, every now and then you go through the book cart, and mostly it's like Tom Clancy novels. They love Tom Clancy and stuff like that, and Clive Barker novels and things like that. But lo and behold, I found this old Penguin paperback of, you know, an old version of Robin Hood written by Charles Vivian. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be great. And I started reading it.
I'm having
like,
an amazing.
They get into Evil Hold, which is like this castle where, you
That's good to hear, man.
Marion's father is being kept, and nobody knows it, and he's there, and he's not away at Crusades. He's in this prison, and Robin Hood goes into the prison, and in the moment when he's in the prison, how he sees the other prison, the wretches that he has to leave behind because they're too wretched to even come out. Like how bad the prison is and what he's seen inside and his observations. I was shaking after reading it. I'm shaking thinking about
I'm ready to lose this
now, but you know, it was such a vivid depiction. I'm like, well, I'm adapting this because I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling like what it's like. I'm feeling what it's like to have authority, to have the boot on your neck. I mean, rightfully so, but nevertheless. And so I started writing, you know, my version of Robin Hood, and with pencil and paper. And as I'm writing it, like I was crying as I wrote it. I was looking at the pages the other day, and there's like teardrops, like all over it, like on every page. It's like, holy crap! It's like when you're writing like that and you're feeling that much, it's not a bad thing to cry when you're writing.
Yeah.
It's like, thank God I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Like I'm feeling something and it's traveling into the page. And also because I had been a working writer in Hollywood for a long time, just by speed, I had fallen into the very bad habit of composing at my computer, at my laptop, like one of those assholes who goes to Starbucks. And since I was that guy. And so I'm sitting, and I had kind of become used to that. Well, writing by hand while incarcerated, it reconnected me with like pen to paper or pencil to paper, and it reminded me that not only, like when you write something down, you have a different relationship with the
No,
word.
I consider the pen is the antenna to God.
It is the antenna to God, and also when you type it into the computer, that's a process of rewriting.
Yeah.
And so you're losing an entire section, and so it reconnected
I couldn't
me with
agree
that.
with you more.
Okay, well, explain this more to me, because this is fascinating to me. Because I've heard many people say this about comedy, that they have to write on paper. I don't. I write on a laptop. I've always written on a laptop. For me, it's what I like about writing, even writing on paper, is that it takes more time to write the word appreciate than it does to think about what it means to appreciate something. Like the word appreciate, you know what it is instantly. Oh, he appreciates this. But to write appreciate, it takes longer, so there's more thinking.
Well,
and in more thinking, I feel like when you have more thinking, there's more little different ways you might alternately branch off with your ideas.
I don't think I.
That is not false.
Not that I've ever written an hour-long stand-up comedy show. All right, but I would think that your writing is different than my kind of writing.
Sure.
All right, you know, it would like I would think as far as writing stuff down, it's like notes and ideas and funny word phrases or this and that and the other. But then you're working it out.
things
You're
don't
saying
work no
it. You're
more.
saying it. You're saying it. You're saying it, and then you get your story. Right, and maybe you say it into a recorder. Maybe you do this or you do that, but you know, but probably it doesn't even look right when you type it up on a thing. It doesn't look right.
No.
It's the way you tell the story.
What I was going to get to is that
on
when
map, if you click it
when
on
I
map,
type, I can type quicker
you
than
hear a
I can
different
write
sound.
by hand.
Oh, yeah.
And the problem with comedy is it comes quick and slippery.
And also,
Especially if you're a little lit.
you can edit.
That makes a tremendous amount of
is tremendous.
sense. I mean, we're writing stuff that has to hold up on the page.
Right.
That has to
Like
hold up as
we can't
writing.
see it on like
I'll write
you know first person. We can see it on the
1,500 word
map.
essay and I'll use one line. Like there's one thing in there that might be a bit, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
write all this other shit on transportation.
It's like
and then
strip mining. You just
Yes.
pull all that dirt out and just process it.
So
That's
you-
get a little ore.
exactly what it's like. I've
Yeah,
tried
okay,
to write
so you open up your mind about
100%.
just let loose on public transportation.
Yes, and I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm just trying to write, and then I'll find something funny in it, and then that's the starting point. Now I take that, cut it, copy it into a completely fresh document. Now, what is this?
Okay, but let
And
me
how
ask
do
you-
I get to
Ultimately,
Let
it's
me ask you a
whatever
question.
works.
Let
Is
me
when
ask you a question.
is the best.
Is it you on either typing or whatever? Is it you doing that
Enemy remaining.
8-page thing on transportation, or is it more likely that you're just pacing around doing
I'm
a running
sitting-
monologue on public transportation?
Well, I'm sitting still, right?
Uh-huh.
If that's what you mean. The thing about typing is I type good. So, not great, but I don't have to look at the keys, and I can type pretty quickly. And if I have a good laptop, like a ThinkPad that has a lot of finger travel, then you really feel it. And I get into like a zone. And then it's just about like...
Yes, but no, you actually do write your notes.
Yeah, and then it's just about but they don't always come out the same way, because sometimes when you bring them out on stage, the moment lets you know this is not the way to go, it's this way. And then all of a sudden you're like, God, how did I not see that in front of the computer? Because you weren't in that vibe of the crowd. Like, it's like, you don't do it on your own. You have to do it with them. It's like the one art form that literally cannot be practiced in solitary.
Yeah.
You have to do it. So when I write like that. But I also write things down on pieces of paper. Or I also write, like, if I have an idea, I gotta catch it.
Well, they're not going to give you that computer in jail.
You know, Bola,
You're going to be forced to write it on
Yeah.
on pencil, and that's going to be an okay experience.
But what is it that it makes it to you, like the hand to God? Like, what is it about writing on paper?
what the fuck? Where am I?
My little analogy of it is you can't write poetry on a computer.
Why not?
Well,
Guys,
because
I'm really bad at this
it's
game.
I'm going for a rhythm.
Right.
I'm going for a rhythm, and there's a connection between my chicken scratch and this paper and this pen as opposed to this other thing, and the more unintelligible and only I can read it, the more legit it kind of is. And the thing is, and it's vomit. It's absolutely vomit. Okay, when you write by hand, you overwrite. You way overwrite because you're just getting it out there. You're getting it out there. Then after all the vomit happens, then you sit down with a typewriter, or then you sit down with a thing, and now you take the vomit and you tame it. And now you make it. Now you make the sentences work, and now there's more creativity. This is a okay. Now you make, and now you come up, and now you make it work like a writer. Now you make the page work. Now you make the sentences work. Can we stop for a second while we're in the restaurant?
Yeah.
Hey, you have cigars, don't you?
Yeah, you want a cigar?
Yeah, I would
let's
love
have some cigars.
He doesn't do anything fun.
I'll have a cigar. On Joe Rogan's show, I will have a cigar.
You just flip it?
No, go away. Go away. Oh, wait, no.
Anything fun? Really? Nothing? Well, maybe I should talk about this.
Talk about it.
Maybe I should talk about. Are we on?
Yeah.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do anything fun. Don't do anything fun. No,
Making movies is fun.
well, that's the
Where's
fun.
the cutter? I thought that was a cutter. That looked cool. I was like, is it a cutter or is that brass knuckles?
Um,
What are you saying about fun?
I don't do anything fun. Well, after what happened to me, I mean, I should probably tell the whole story, and maybe I eventually will here. But
I gotta go to work in 30 minutes.
I went to jail for a DUI-related incident that caused manslaughter.
I'm at negative
One of my
0.5 points for calling off.
Died, and
You have to go to work?
After
Where?
that, and going to jail,
At the casinos.
and whatnot.
Okay, what do you do there?
He's not the funnest guy to get
I
drunk
work in
with.
servers, like server.
That's kind of what it is.
Like at the bar.
If I go
Yeah,
to a party
basically.
or something like that, I
So,
don't
have
wanna
you
be
ever
seen
taken money
holding a
from
drink
someone who's
with,
like really wanting
even
to
with
just like
water
give
in
it away?
I'm teasing him,
No.
man. I get it.
Okay, that's your goal, okay? When you go to work, try to find ways you could just steal money. Right? Say, oh no, actually it
And
costs
then you have the fact that
there's
he's
like a
vegetarian. I'm like, all
$3
the
surcharge
all
and
the
you pay enough cash
You're a vegetarian?
and then pocket that. Okay?
Why do you do that?
I did that once on stream. I got
That happens.
hit.
That happened to a friend of mine.
That's
What?
He
On
sneaks out
stream?
burgers every now and then.
Yeah.
Even on stream, bro.
Like
I
I went
also
to
have
the
a kind of
I went to
it's
our
kind of
club
like
and I went there to
an
the
animal
bartender.
thing. I had a
Well,
pig,
I was drunk, so
as a
actually
pet.
didn't work.
And man, when you
Okay,
look
wait.
at those eyes,
I was
those are
trying to
You're not
tax
you're
him
not
up.
working?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started
I looked
taxing
into
the
it and
food.
it looked.
Work.
Taxing people drink, yeah.
So how does that
I
make
also
sense? So
have
you're,
a kind
he's gonna
of,
pay you for you to get
Yeah,
his
I
drink?
was drunk,
like
alright.
an animal thing. I had
So
a
this
pig,
story is actually very not relevant.
as a pet.
Well, I was on stream, so it's relevant.
On stream? So you were like filming yourself,
Yes.
Why do you do that?
Because his wife made him.
doing a
That
crime.
happens. That happened to a friend of mine.
I don't think you should be
sneaks out
working at the
burgers every
casino.
now
I
and
think you should try to spend your money there, honestly.
I also have a kind of.
Yo,
it's
move
kind
it!
of like
Move!
an animal
Fat.
thing.
If you
I
actually
had a pig,
worked out and went to the gym,
as
you
a
probably
Can you
could
move?
go through this doorway.
Well, I went to the gym this
Those
morning.
eyes,
I
those
went to
are
the gym
human
this
eyes.
morning.
What'd you do at the gym? What'd you do?
I hit back and
I looked
bicep.
into it and it looked into my. I just
Okay.
I had
And,
chickens before
what's
that.
your BMI?
And you know what it's
Or
like? Chickens are
body
like
fat
cats. They want back
it's like
scratches. And so
really
I just
low.
couldn't. Like after a while, I just couldn't do it.
Spike
Yeah.
down A.
How low?
There's people that are feral. You ever met a feral person? You don't want to let them sleep in your house.
I don't know,
Even
really
a
low.
wild, crazy person, you're in jail.
How do you know
push
it's
that
really
thing
low?
up. You had it right. You had it right. Did I?
Yeah, saying right
I'm
here.
very
Yeah, push that
skinny.
up.
Tell
People that are feral.
Oh, you're skinny?
You ever met a feral person?
How tall are you?
5'9".
Okay. That's not
Drink
bad.
with,
Yeah. I weigh about 125.
I mean, I should probably tell
Oh
you
shit, you're skinny as fuck.
here, but
Yeah, for real. What the fuck?
you know,
I'm
I
5'9"
I
and
went
a
to
half.
jail.
And I'm on a cut, and I'm at 130 something. You're like
Well, I was 135 2 years ago when I went consistently in the gym.
Manslaughter.
In the gym.
And one of my
Okay, but,
passengers
so you
died.
wait. So you just
And
don't eat?
Yeah, I stopped doing it. I
you know,
started
after
traveling.
that and going to jail
stopped
and
going to
whatnot.
jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
He's not the funnest guy to get
Because
drunk
I like
with.
traveling.
Yeah,
I just went to Japan like 2 months ago. That's pretty
Oh,
cool.
okay.
That's
And
kinda
you
what
meet
it
in
is.
Japan. That's like
I
the
ate
You know, if I
weirdest
go
thing
to
to
a
do.
party or something like that,
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be seen
That was a
holding
lot.
a drink with,
So,
you know,
Do you
even
have a
with water
little
in it.
like little bit
I'm
of
teasing
facial
you,
hair
man.
on
I
your
mean,
pudgy
I get it.
in your face? Are you Asian like that?
Who wouldn't fucking get it?
No, I was pretty good.
And then you had the
face.
fact that he's a vegetarian. I mean, all the
So
all
you're
the
saying I have a forward
You're
growth
vegetarian?
and your maxilla is developed?
Why did you do that?
my wife made it.
Fuck.
That happens. That happened to a friend of mine.
That's,
Sneaks out
One
burgers every
enemy
now and then.
remaining.
I also
your
have
face
a
have
kind
lines?
of, it's kind of like an
Um,
animal
probably by my
thing.
eyes, I don't
I
know.
had a pig.
You want to see me, bro?
lines.
As a-
You want to
as a
see?
pet.
Yes, I think so.
And man, when you look
Like,
at those
next to your
eyes, those are
nose is what I'm
human
talking about.
eyes. They're,
Yeah.
and
Lines are from
I
lines,
looked
like, I
into
have a
it,
smile
and looked
line.
into my, I had
Well, everyone
chickens
does, but I'm
before
saying, like,
that, and
naturally,
you know what
you're
it's
not-
like? Chickens are like cats, you know, they want back scratches
Let me
and stuff, and I
try.
just couldn't, like, after a while, I just
No, I
couldn't do
don't.
it.
Yeah. There's people that
That's
are
good.
feral.
Standing.
You ever met a feral person? You don't want to let them sleep in your house.
Yeah, right.
You met a wild, crazy person, you're in jail. So push that thing up. You had it right. You had it right. Did I? Yeah.
This thing?
Yeah, push that
It's
up.
an intelligence test.
I'm sorry. Push it
naturally
down.
limited.
Pull it down.
Yeah, sorry.
Pull it down.
Sorry.
Hey,
Like
I'm digging this.
you've
I
yeah,
can't
they're
tell,
great.
buddy.
Drop the
Foundation
Instagram.
Star, shout out.
bro. I'm gonna look at you.
You've been around feral people, right?
That's
You
also
don't
my
want feral
tricks. You know, if
people
you want
living
to
in your
support a
house.
man,
You don't want to take some murderer and give him your car and let him come and sleep in your room.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
I should take you around some wild pigs.
No, I've,
Wild pigs are like little demons.
Well, no.
They make like orc sounds.
wild pigs are wild pigs, no, I get
You
it.
hear them fight with each other.
There are people who are like that also.
Exactly. That's my point.
But you're
My
talking
point
like
is,
boars and everything.
domesticated people are awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Domesticated people like yourself and myself, we're fun to be around. We're nice people. We know, we're not going to rob you. No one's going to kill you. There's a difference. What the wild is. Yeah, it's different. So I understand that you wouldn't want to eat animals, but they eat each other, and it's just this bizarre cycle of life. I think it's where you're getting your animals from. Are you getting your animals from this mass factory?
well, that's the other
farming,
part of it. That's the other part of
disgusting-
it is I think there's a line in Highlander 2 where Sean
got
Connery
locked in
says,
your room.
I don't eat anything that
I'm
I
looking
cannot
at your
identify."
tattoos right now.
Oh,
So
And
why'd
I
you
kinda
get that
feel like
snake
that as
on your
well.
left hand
Like I don't
or your right hand?
have a lot of
since it's in
trust
your video.
for large.
snake? Because it's my Chinese New York
But you
zodiac
can-
sign.
you
Lock
can get
in.
meat from,
Oh, so
like a
that means you're
farm.
like 20
Like
something?
you can get it from a ranch. You could go to
Like
one of
20
those.
what? 3?
They have those.
Technically, yeah, but 22.
What are those farmers market type deals?
Oh, yeah,
You go
and-
meet a rancher
and
you can
I
buy
am
beef
not-
right from them.
I am not like one of these people who are
There's
like,
one-
oh,
oh,
never,
okay,
never.
okay.
Like, if
Yo,
I am
thanks
in
for the follow,
the right
buddy.
place and the right environment and the right food is there. Like, if there's, I'm in on an island in Greece, and the guy comes up from the boat with a basket of fish.
Thanks,
and which
Rainer.
one would you like?
Right,
I'll
right,
take
right.
that one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
Like,
Do you at least eat eggs?
oh yeah.
Wait,
Okay,
you
so
didn't
you
shoot my
eggs,
phone? What
going
the
out of style.
fuck?
Yeah, that's good. So
eggs
you're
like
Oh,
like
you have a
getting
good face. by
what
the
you
way.
need.
Cool.
As long as you eat eggs, I tell
eyebrows?
people like eggs are free.
Oh, it's 'cause
No
I
one's
don't do
getting
my
hurt.
eyebrows,
Especially
you
if
know,
have
only
your own chickens.
sometimes.
That's the greatest thing in the world. We have 15 chickens.
There's nothing like.
When I do my eyebrows,
eggs
they're
straight
like
from
when I
chicken.
get them
it's great.
threaded, they're
But
But
it's
really
it's
good.
also it's karma free.
But your face
the
is
chickens
good.
are having a good time.
like,
no one's getting hurt. Like they're all like treated like
forward
pets.
growth.
Like, hey girls.
I love chickens.
I have that.
I don't know what
Wait,
they
what kind
do.
of Asian are you?
I've always actually thought
You can't
That-
tell.
No, I'm like, no.
an exotic
You
pet
like-
would
you
be
like
to have like
brown?
a chicken.
I'm the
Yeah.
curry
You know,
muncher.
like one chicken.
Yeah.
Are you just
and just
Indian?
like treat it like a dog
Indian
and
black
treat it,
and
hey,
white.
that's my chicken. He hangs around.
You gotta get a couple of them.
You're
They
Indian,
have a
black,
pecking order.
and
Yeah.
white?
They like to hang out with each other.
I think
too.
Goebbels figured that one out.
Ugh. Yeah, the
was a chicken
Parents
farmer.
freaky as
Was he
hell.
really?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it was my mom.
That's how
She
he
just, she's a
Well,
whore.
worked out all of his policies with campuses.
We shouldn't talk about that. Don't like connect that to chicken farming. It's just, it's like this
Well,
name.
yeah,
Adolf,
I was
right?
adopted,
You
so
can't
I
use
don't
it.
Your
You can't have that
face,
full
or
mustache
at least
anymore,
your
right?
skinniness,
You can't have that cool
gives the
mustache.
impression
Michael Jordan tried for a
that
little while.
your
Yeah.
height
Like,
is
that's
like
how
past 6
competitive that
foot.
guy is. Like, fuck
Which
that.
is
I can
good.
wear that mustache. He had a Hitler for a
my
while.
Also, you,
I think I can make
Yeah,
I'll
no,
make
and
it
also
happen.
you developed
He just
your neck,
decided
which
he's gonna
actually
force it
has
through.
You know, as far as writing in jail, I'm just thinking about it right now.
He's from sucking dick a lot.
One of the other things I had to contend with was
your neck is long. It'll fit mine.
they would
Holy
confiscate
shit,
anything that I
that's too
wrote.
big, buddy.
Oh.
So, you know, like once a week
I'm
or
just
once every 2
kidding.
weeks or so.
Why would they
I'm
do that? Was it
kidding.
illegal to
I'm
write?
I was
straight. I'm
considered a
straight.
security
I
threat
like
by
men.
what
I
I
mean
was
women.
writing. And
Oh, because you were telling
when
the
they
truth
first-
about what was going on.
I'm not
that,
even
and then when they
streaming, by the
sent
way,
me
this
in,
is-
like
this
I was
is
placed in
normal
this
me
like
talking.
solitary confinement
I know.
thing, like in the hole, and you know you're in there.
No
and,
clip
like,
farming yet.
I'd never been anything like that before in my life. I was thinking this is like fucking Guantanamo, except it made me think about it.
Yo,
I thought,
thanks,
due
Saki,
process
Gio.
interest. And so I'm in this like
Last player standing.
crazy Kafka-esque, mechanized, totalitarian environment. You're in a room where you have no window and the lights are on 24/7.
I'm gonna get melted.
And you know, I don't care what anybody says. You go into a room 3 days deprived of sound and the understanding of
That's right,
time.
that's right.
You go crazy.
Sadly, you guys
know,
don't get to
after
see
2
my
days. You're insane. They broke me after 2 days. I
follow
was like, oh, I'll just
emo,
yoga,
you know?
I'll meditate, no problem. No, after a
Which is
while, if the lights are on
It's
24/7,
Brooke laughing.
you can't hear it. He's like being
One
inside a
Piece.
seashell.
Oh yeah, wait.
Go slowly
You seem like a type of
nuts.
guy who's
Is that
like,
by design?
you know what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's by
yeah,
design.
I get down
It's
a lot
like
like
you're
a rock star.
placed into a so about once a week, like when I was in population,
let's
about once a
win
week,
this, guys.
middle of the night, or the lights are down, and suddenly the lights
Alright, this is
come
the
on bright.
plan. We're gonna
Lights are
just,
always on, but the lights come on
fuck 'em.
bright, and suddenly a bunch of guards come rushing in through the doors. They just
I prefer soft.
storm into the tank, into the section.
Just to start it
and,
off, you
they
know.
pull everybody out of their cells and they strip everybody naked and they put you up against a wall.
Yeah, actually, you do look
So
like
you're
a
up there with,
bartender
like,
or like a server.
Sancho and Leroy and like everybody's suddenly
You're
you're
like
all,
you're like
you know,
you're like kind of
one moment
awkward.
you're being
Though,
kept
you know what I'm
separate,
saying?
and next thing you know, you're all
Awkward,
naked together, standing up against a wall.
yeah.
And
So
they're
that's
going
why,
through
like,
everybody's
I don't see you,
cell.
like,
They're just
trying to, like,
ripping
hit on
your
people,
cell
you know what I'm saying?
apart.
Oh yeah, I don't
Looking
know how to
for
hit on
anything.
people.
Usually they're looking for tar
That's what I'm
heroin
saying.
or a shank or a weapon of some kind.
I
or
just know how to.
That's it, right?
I
cell
just know
phones,
how to,
anything.
yeah.
Like they're looking for anything that's
Yeah,
considered
that's your
contraband.
way of.
Okay, for me,
Yeah.
they were looking at my writing because when I was in solitary that time, like literally on kites. A kite is a requisition form.
So
You,
what's your level
send
of
out to
fucking
the
like?
guards. You're not allowed to talk to the guards. They
single.
don't want to talk to you. You tell them what you
No,
want
but,
on a
like,
kite.
when was the
then
last
you give
time
them the
you were
kite, and then
somewhere?
they take it off, and maybe it gets answered. I never had one.
I mean, I
You
did an
have an
IRL
idea?
base stream with a girl, but yeah, I'm a lonely boy.
And so,
So wait, are you trying to actually become
they
famous?
come
and,
in,
like, you,
they
like,
strip
be,
everybody
like, up there?
naked, they take all your clothes, and they're
I just
under the
run
guise
a
of we're,
community for
we're
people that talk
doing
to
a
each
laundry
other.
exchange,
okay.
so everybody gets
So
new clothes,
that
and you end
makes
up with like
sense.
these big baggy pants or something too small for you.
Because the reality is, in
And,
order
they
to
would
get up there,
Look for
you gotta
contraband
do
for everybody.
absurd
Well, with me,
things or
they
things
would
that are
look for
different.
whatever I was
There-
writing.
there's,
Because
like,
when I was in
50,000
solitary, I was
people.
writing,
I'm sorry, we're there.
like maps. I would map the place like a fucking idiot. Like I
Yeah,
still
no, I do
was,
absurd stuff, though, like
I'm
low-key.
writing about Eisenhardt,
Okay,
the
but-
guard. I saw him watching.
And you gotta.
know,
do you post those clips
like,
on?
literally saw him watching on a little
TikTok?
TV Nazi propaganda, like
Instagram,
Triumph
but
of the
then
Will.
girls
He's
call me
playing on his
sluts and
TV
whores,
and he's
so I
watching
stopped
it.
posting
Oh,
it.
I'm gonna write that down.
Why?
So they
Just
didn't
do
want
it.
me writing all my
Who
stuff. They were like,
cares?
that guy's a fucking threat.
Yeah, you
You
can't
get
read
whatever
the
he's
fucking
written.
comments
And
if
so
you're
I noticed that whenever I was
bad.
taken out of my cell to shower,
It's never
to
a
No,
good
no,
idea.
no, I don't
do
care about the
whatever,
chats, but
then
like
they
the
would come
girls
in
that I
and
try to
just
go out
take
IRL
whatever I had
dates
written.
with,
So I
they're like, nah,
learned
fuck you,
that
you're a whore.
they
I'm not
couldn't
doing this
take
no more.
or open
So?
letters to my attorney.
Because I'm trying to
So,
make content, you know, so I
it's
gotta get
privilege.
girls on there.
And so what
Yeah,
I would
and
do is
well,
I would just
the thing is
write,
that-
and then
oh,
whenever
do you
I had
not
to
tell
leave
them that you
myself,
do
like,
that?
to go to yard,
Yeah, I
or
don't.
if they were
Well, I
writing
do. After I tell them,
everybody out,
after I tell
looking for
them,
contraband, I
They
would
get,
just
like, weird.
quickly
That's funny.
seal
Yeah, well,
the
obviously it's a
envelope.
little
My
uncanny
writing
for
would
them.
go in. You know,
So
I always
that's why
left it
they're
when
gonna
I
take
was
out their
working in the letters to my attorney.
suspicions on you.
And then
by
as soon
saying
as
all
they
that.
would rate it, I would just seal the envelope.
like
and then
there's
that
a time
would go
where
out, and he would
I
send
think I
that
literally
letter
invented
to
the
my daughter,
self-footy, guys.
who would then type
The
up
what?
pages that I
Invented
wanted.
the
So
self-
that's how I wrote several scripts. Was like that. Wow. And
I just.
10 seconds left.
yeah,
That
because
is.
little.
What did you said you read some of Roger's writing when he was in prison? What
He's
did
gonna
you
flash you.
You, where did you publish it? I don't remember where I was reading it.
Well,
Was it on
I
Twitter?
had several things. Okay, so first of all, I was placed. I was sentenced to go to a low security, like a country club facility. I went to a low
I'm not
security
gonna lie,
facility.
like you look
And,
like
I went
all
in
the
there and,
water's been
you
sucked
know, you
out
have
of you.
access to stuff.
I told you I'm
It's-
skinny,
it's,
buddy.
It's more like a camp.
Do you
almost.
drink enough water?
You're there.
Yeah, I only drink water and alcohol. when I'm
Incarcerated,
going
but
out.
it's a light
You drink
incarceration
alcohol?
almost. And I had access to
Wait.
My favorite
a cell
drink is
phone.
whiskey
How long
sour.
And
did
so I
it
started
take?
tweeting, and these were the
Okay, well,
early days of Twitter.
what is the tattoo
And so
on
I
your
started
right
tweeting,
hand?
oh,
That's
they
like the
found tar
skeleton
heroin
thing.
and so in-
Oh, that's
in-
from an
in
anime,
Pudgy
Sword Art
Cell.
Online, the
They
second
dragged him
Yeah.
off, and,
last final
oh,
boss.
they,
Oh,
this happened over
nice.
here. Oh, the so and
Wait,
so,
second
so
season?
so they
Or wait,
rolled up so
first
and so and
season.
taken him away. I was like
First season?
tweeting
Oh,
this
okay.
stuff.
Did you like the second season?
And this is the early
No,
days of
no,
Twitter.
it was alright. I mean, I rewatched it.
You know,
So.
Roger
You don't
Ebert
like that?
was like
Oh, that's
I
at that
rewatched
time,
it and I
the
understood
biggest
it.
on
So it
Twitter
was pretty
was following me,
decent because I rewatched it.
and he put me on
But like when I
blast.
first
you were-
watched it,
when you were a
Like,
kid, yeah.
he suddenly decided that he would tell every
That shit
and
was
like
low-key, like-
all of a sudden one day
like if the
overnight,
fucking happened.
like the story kind
Yeah,
of
the
went
plot-
everywhere in
I
the
didn't
world.
realize
He
that.
put you on
Like,
blast in a
I always
positive
thought
way.
it was
Well,
my
he
fault for
just
not
told
getting the
everybody
plot,
that
but
oh,
I, like,
this is
when I grew
happening.
older,
Somebody
I
is
realized that
Roger
I didn't
Avery,
fuck up
Academy Award-winning writer,
plot
is
and you could
tweeting
just
from
see how
jail
it
and tweeting
Yeah.
from behind bars.
Did he have
At the
a
time,
Yeah, I
now it's
remember
like
everyone
nothing.
was
People
hating
do
on
it all the
Sword Art
time.
Online.
People like I've got a
Suge Knight's doing podcasts.
I've got a
behind
friend who's
bars.
one of those January 6 guys, and he sends me like tweets all the time. Like
You got a friend
This
who's
is
a
the
January
early
6th
days,
guy?
though.
yeah,
You got a friend who was a January 6th guy?
well, he's still there. He's like hundreds of days in jail without
Rena,
without
instead
any
of
kind
crouching
of,
there, you should have
without
kept
trial.
walking,
Yeah.
so that way you can shoot you.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but
You know what I'm
like
saying?
that's not how it's supposed to be, is it?
Not how
I
it's
didn't.
supposed to be.
You're supposed to have a due
Switching
process of some kind.
Well, especially when you watch the actual
Wait.
footage of how it went down.
Oh, I watched it live. And
So
there was
how
that-
heavy were you in that
guy,
very,
that
very
Antifa
first
guy,
picture?
waving people
what?
in.
How heavy?
And,
First photo.
Moving them in.
Yeah.
They
Like,
were
yeah, what
moving
was your weight?
Short hair?
the blockade things.
Like
They were
110?
moving out, and cops were waving people in. They were opening
wait.
the doors
When
for
were you
people.
I want you to think about it this
135?
way. In the most heavily
you look at
armed
my
nation
highlight
the world
pictures,
has ever known, why would you
you
have
see
an
those highlight
insurrection with no
pictures?
guns?
Wait, which
They're
one?
gonna have
Not the
Oh,
highlight, but
shit.
like the
Those
top,
guys
the
weren't
cover.
planning on an insurrection.
Oh,
And
shit.
then you have the factor
Me.
that there was agents in the crowd.
Oh, you really went
And
to
we
the
don't know how
gym.
many.
Hello.
There's government agents in the crowd that were inciting people.
Okay,
to
so
go
what's
in.
that
That's
tattoo
what
on your
they
right
do.
shoulder?
But I
or
wonder
left
who that
shoulder?
cop was who
Seven
shot that
Deadly
one.
Sins, Meliodas.
What about that?
Yeah, that whole thing's crazy.
That's
Yeah,
The whole
cool.
thing's crazy. And then there's this thing that cops died. That no cops died
The-
that day.
is
That's
it
not
like a
true. The
fucking
cop who
dragon
died, he
eating
died
its
of a
tail?
stroke, and I
Basically,
believe it was
yeah.
a stroke or a heart attack. But
Oh,
Well,
shit.
like everything, there's a lot of misinformation being given to us by the
but
mainstream
it gets
media.
attributed to it, sort of like when
Bro has the
you know,
same
anything
nose
happens
as
to
me,
anyone
watching that
4 years
YouTube
after the
video.
vaccine, they attribute it to the vaccine. Oh, it was probably the vaccine.
Yeah.
Could have been the guy just had a fucking heart attack. But this guy who was a
Do
cop,
you
he
like
did not
your nose?
die. It was
'Cause
not
I have a
killed
dorsal
by
hump.
the protesters.
good.
And you watch the video of the
Like,
shaman dude with the
that's one of
fucking
the things
buffalo
where it's
hat.
like,
They're walking him around.
either really
The
like it or
cops
you
are
don't.
Yeah, no, they're showing him around. No,
They're
it was-
guiding him.
No,
How would you
mine
ever
just
think
goes straight
that is going to
down,
let
like a
you
diagonal
wind up
angle.
in jail? How would you ever
Yeah,
think
but it
that
has
you're
like
an
a
unsophisticated
from the
guy
connection from
who
your, like,
was wearing fucking
skull
face paint
to your, like,
and you're
nose
kind of
has,
a
like, a
kook,
little
which
dip,
and you're
which
part
causes,
of
like, a
you think
dorsal
you're part of a
hump, right?
movement, which is
No,
really
it doesn't
scary.
have a dip.
You know, people
It's
get a
just
part of a
a dip.
movement and they fucking
So
yeah,
did
we're all
it
doing
change
it.
over
And
time?
then you've got literal government agents encouraging you to
shit.
do it, moving barriers, letting you in. They were playing chess,
Like it's
and these
literally,
idiots were
it's
playing
literally, you know,
checkers.
there's
Yeah,
like
no,
a cute
they all
angle.
got a
That's
lot
how
of
my
sense.
note is. No,
Yeah,
really.
like
Well, because nobody was doing an insurrection.
Different.
It wasn't an insurrection.
Yeah, you don't do an insurrection without weapons. It's the whole idea is crazy.
So there was no presumption that there was going to be any kind of like that you were going to get thrown in jail for 1,000 days.
No, we're losing,
no,
guys.
no,
I've
no,
lost
no,
like
no, no,
9-10 games
he's
in the
been there
last
forever, and
day.
every now and then I get a picture of him like
That's facts.
he's been in like
I've
Look, I
deranked
deserve to
from,
go to
jail.
that guy doesn't,
Right.
and most of those guys don't.
Yeah, I think it was a bad decision, certainly to go into the Capitol. It was a bad decision to smash windows, but I want to know who was
People
doing
have been
it.
smashing things like
So
for
when
a
did
whole
you
year
start
before that.
Right.
trying to work on
That's a
your
very good
fits?
point.
It's
Yeah,
like we
like-
were a culture of smashing
There's
things at
probably a
that point.
timing
It's also
enough
as
where
soon
you're
as
like,
you
oh, I
find
need to
out
get
that there
like
were
better
government
fits and
agents
shit.
that may or may
I'm
not
still
have
in my
decided
fits.
to go
I
in, the whole
literally,
thing fucking
all my
changes.
fits
Like,
are
what are you
like
trying it?
My mom
Are
buys
you there
me
to
from
serve and
Costco,
protect,
you know what
or
I'm
is
saying?
there some other
I
weird
think like
shit
that's
going on?
when
Because it seems like
middle
there
school,
is,
maybe.
and no one wants to talk about it because you don't want to be
Like when I
that guy.
started skating, maybe after
But
high
at a
school.
certain point in time, you should be that guy. You fucking go, what's going on, man?
Last player standing.
Oh, I thought I hit that.
there comes
Yeah,
a point
you're
where
like a skater,
men of
dude.
good conscience must stand
Yeah.
up.
I think I started trying
and
fits when I
speak
was
out
a skater.
against
I didn't really
things
try. I
that are
just threw on shit
obviously
because I started
wrong.
thrifting.
Yeah.
And that is one of them.
That's like
that
the
is one of them.
pipeline.
It's a big one. It's a
Oh,
weird
yeah.
one. And you know, there's all this pushback about Trump
wasn't me,
getting in
but I knew
office. He
someone
said
who
one of the
liked
first
that.
things he said was he was
Yeah,
going to
I've
release
never.
all
I don't really have any
January
name
6
brand
prisoners.
stuff.
Like,
Dude, once I found
How long do you
like a
think they should
silver
be there
tab
for?
for like, and I
Who's
bought it for
opposing
like
They
less
should
than
at
$1
least
just by
be
weight.
going to trial.
I was
Yes.
addicted
You should
and I
at
never
least be
buy
going
it. Like,
to trial.
like,
Is that like a
It's
Viagra pill?
unconscionable to hold
Oh,
somebody
okay.
for over a year, 2 years now, or like.
Well, the thing, the
The-
government has always had a
the
situation
jeans
where,
with, like, the
we talked
silver
about when
tab.
we did our episode on the Andersonville trial.
I don't know
you
shit
know,
about fashion. I mean,
is,
I love fashion. but-
That's no. I only know that because
The
that's the
one
one I
charge
got,
that the
and then I found out
government
later
can
that it's like real.
put against you where they don't need direct
So then I was
evidence
like, oh,
is
I'm just gonna-
conspiracy.
I'm like stoked.
If they arrest you
I
for
got it for so
conspiracy, that
cheap
means they don't have
because-
direct evidence, but they don't need direct evidence for conspiracy.
So
By the
now I
way,
don't-
when I was
I mean,
I
like
don't
just
buy
one thing. That's how they got Manson.
$40
Oh yeah, yeah,
pants.
that's true.
right.
All right,
Anyway.
because
Well, they knew what Manson had done because they were helping him.
yeah. Well, I believe that too because
Did you read Chaos?
that book's one of the best.
One of the
Believe me,
best
I read
books
every
ever.
Manson book that there possibly could read, and then I read that one. I throw the rest of them away in the
Yeah.
fucking trash.
Chaos is insane.
Chaos is just fantastic, and he helped me too because my first AD is a friend of his. All right, Bill Clark.
Nice try.
When I was
This guy
writing
came out of nowhere.
the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood book, I go deeper into the Manson stuff, and so I had a couple of little questions in my head that I always kind of wanted to know the answer to. So I got Tom's
I just
number
realized
and I called
you
him
have,
up,
like,
and I
a
was able to
dream
ask him some
section
really super
so I can watch all
direct
your-
questions. It
Yeah,
really
watch
helped
the
my book.
FaceTime one where I
It's a
FaceTime
crazy
that girl
fucking
and
story.
I invent the self footage.
You know, when I was in jail, I found out they record everything.
Dude,
They're just
if
constantly
you guys look at his Instagram, he has like a
so somebody's
one
in,
of his
in there and
streams
they're
just
like,
literally
"Man,
looking
they
at
killed
elephant
that
cock.
DA." Well, that's
Oh,
conspiracy.
no.
And so they'll wait and like, oh, you're about to get out. And,
Nah.
like they'll literally
Like,
start
it's,
walking
like,
on the
massive.
stop.
Oh God.
Remember that
You
thing
know
you
what
said
other
about
message?
conspiracy? Let's play that back for you.
Oh
Or
God.
what you said about killing
That
the
is
DA.
not how
Well,
you make it to the
that's,
top, dude.
You're going way again. You're going
Nah,
back
he
to
wasn't
trial.
kidding about like
That
unexpected
happened a
and
lot.
like
But it's also
Don't ever talk.
They
100
put
on
guys in
base,
your
100 on
cell
base.
to get you talking about shit.
Oh yeah, that happened right away. That happened right away.
Oh, they put
They're
informants.
trying to get you to
Last player
incriminate
standing.
yourself constantly. It's like a fun game.
What a fun game.
Yeah, you
What a
gotta
fun
slip-
game. To serve and protect. Incriminate you deeper.
Well, look, I had as Quentin will confirm, I have my authority issues. I always have. I always have. I'm suspicious of anyone in power.
Yeah, but I deleted a lot of those
And,
videos from
you
my
should be. Yeah,
Instagram.
It's intoxicating.
Maybe we'll like this. Okay,
Why?
So when Roger,
Did it get to
the
you?
Part of the thing on our show.
No, because the girls I would be
I'm
trying to
getting
go
back to
out
what
with
Roger
on the
said.
IRL dates.
huge.
I'm saying, bro.
When we
Thing
do our
is
show, the
fat.
thing is, when we do our show,
it'll fit in
we
your
talk
throat
about
for
3
sure.
movies. So I pick
Yeah, no,
3
what the fuck?
video cassettes.
The show we're talking about is
What
the
was
Video
saying?
Archives
Why'd you delete
podcast,
it?
which
Put
is
it back up.
Which are
You
your
can,
second
I guess
season.
you delete it.
Patreon.com/video.
No, I
Archives.
But the
archived it.
thing is, all right. So it's
Okay,
like
right,
there's
so you
like
still
the
have
main
fun.
movie,
But you
then
have,
there's
like,
that
something
second
that,
movie
like-
that's like kind of like the main movie, but probably
You're
don't
not
know that much about
completely
it.
letting
Some
go.
wild
Just like
exploitation.
deleting it. That's what.
You know, this is what the fuck is this? Let's
They're
watch
here,
it.
they're here, they're here.
And one of the things that's about our show is, I don't say, hey Roger, so find these movies and you watch them and I'll watch them and we'll get together and we'll do it on the phone too. All right, no, we don't do that. All right, you know, we get together to watch the movies together.
Part of it is the experience of being together and watching the movie together
The
through
reason
watching it
came
through his eyes.
the reason we came up with the idea of the show is
You're
like
not both wrong.
Yo, what the heck?
when we
What the
reconnected, we
fuck?
started doing what we used to do.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, and then we were sort of like, well, hey, let's come up with a way we can get paid to do this. All right, you know. So me and Roger will get together and we'll watch 3 movies and sometimes even 4.
But like, I
And
have
then
a
we'll get together. Then we have a
IRL
day
date
off, and then we
coming
get
up.
together on another
but,
day,
like,
and then we record, and we're always in the
canceled
room when we
on
do
it,
it.
'cause, like,
But
I
the
was
thing
really
is, when
tired.
Roger comes over to
But now
watch the
since
film,
we're here, you guys can
I've
watch
kind of
them now,
learned
'cause I rescheduled.
that it's like, okay, Roger, I'm
that's facts.
starting. It's 3 movies we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
watch.
do. I'm gonna do.
I am
I was
starting the
thinking about
first
doing the
movie
hot take
20
scene.
minutes after you
Like,
get
you
here,
gotta
because
change
Roger
that.
will just get off on some arcade
actually?
piece of thing.
The Earth is flat. The Earth is flat.
How do you find these
Next thing
people?
you know, all right, it's been an hour and 15 minutes
And
later,
yet watch
and
the
you're
movie
getting
yet.
further and further and further away, all right, from the alchemy we're trying to create with the first movie. So now it's a little, in 20 minutes, I'm hitting play, and that's it. So wrap it up.
That's a problem with podcasts. When people come over, sometimes we have some of the best conversations before the podcast. So now I have to be rude. I'll be like, stop. Let's not talk.
Hey, no, you're all
Come
good.
on in.
The
Come
fuck,
on
there's
in.
one in that
Catch
card.
that, man.
Yeah.
What makes the girls report
It is
card?
weird. It's a weird thing.
Player standing.
You know, it's a beautiful thing though because it's so open.
Lock in,
You know,
lock in,
there's no
bonus.
there's no studio people.
Oh
You're-
no!
it's not- yeah.
No, I mean even the idea. I mean, the idea that this has replaced the talk shows that we grew up watching, and like those guys were the kings.
Yeah.
The fact that podcasting, I mean, you're the king of it, but the fact that podcasting has replaced that,
seconds
but also the fact that anybody that it's got something intelligent, has got a cool little setup, it's got an interesting personality, and it can sell an interesting conversation.
So you make the girls
theoretically
hold
can
the
start a
camera, I guess.
podcast.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
'cause I don't
barrier
really-
to entry
I
is
don't
so
really
low.
like
I think
holding
about the
the
barrier to entry when you wanted to be a director.
Oh God,
It's
Jesus!
fucking crazy.
Not only that, like the old days of television, like Desi Lou.
The girls want to hold it so
We
they
own
can
our
get a
content,
pretty angle on
like
this
you own your
stuff, you know?
content.
Yeah.
And never mind that it's a podcast. I'm okay with
Wait,
that.
so where'd you find these people? How do you find
the
them?
fact
What's your
that this
method?
is something where, for the first time in
they
my
like,
life at
you know,
least,
Instagram?
I'm involved with something where
Oh, they like-
there is
they
nobody
DM
else.
you?
It's
They're
me
like
and
my
Quentin who
past.
decide
No, I
everything.
DM them.
Yeah.
Or they're like
And
my past.
if
like,
Quentin wants to do it, we go there. If I want to do it,
friends.
we go there. Well, I talk to Quentin. If Quentin allows it, we go there. I mean, basically, what we're doing is the same thing we used to do at
should make
the
a Tinder-
video store. We do what we used to do at the video store. We're talking
Your
about.
idea is completely terrible. I have the
I
kill
did like a
switch, but
Hinge
other than that,
No. I didn't mean it like
But I
that.
was just very troll.
I never used the kill switch.
But the kill switch is always there.
No, not really. Well, I guess theoretically.
But you know what?
But you want a theoretical sort of Damocles.
You know what?
thing
This
over
is
here.
a fun
You've
way.
used the
Make
kill
a
switch.
Tinder.
You've used it on
You
your
do all your
own.
best
I use it on myself.
pictures,
Yeah.
and
You
you
used it on
say,
yourself. You actually
hop on
haven't used it.
this stream with
like,
me or something like that, and then
on any
that's
of
how you
my
get people.
things that I
going.
wanted to do.
No,
Which was really cool. But
because
basically, we're doing
I
the
gotta
same thing
make
we
my
used to do.
Tinder
We
and tally, too.
sit around and talk about movies.
I
And
don't know.
so
I feel like
during the pandemic,
a lot of people know me here.
Quentin called me up, and we hadn't talked.
What do you mean?
We
You gotta
hadn't
make
bumped
it
into each
tally.
other.
Where are you
Into each
right
other
now?
a few times.
But
Vegas.
we hadn't really. We had a little bit of a.
Oh.
We had a falling out. And
Yeah,
I call it
that
a
is-
sort of a
They're all chopped.
business-related
Yeah.
falling out, and maybe if
Kelly-
I had been a
Kelly
little more
has-
mature, I was young as a filmmaker, and probably
So what's your
unprepared
type?
to deal with the complexities of agents and attorneys,
anything that breeds.
Hollywood, and money, and fame, and the press, and the press's agenda, and all of that. I was just approaching it
Actually,
like
guys,
I'm
yeah,
a
but-
SoCal, Gen X, punk
Oh,
filmmaker. That was how I approached
Hey,
it. I
GG's,
do whatever
boys.
the fuck I want to
GG's.
do. I'm gonna make
I'll
the
be
movie
peeled
that
for
I
the
want to
stream, I
make, and
guess.
with that attitude,
I gotta go to
got
work.
this.
Bye.
I know
Bye-bye.
what I want. I know what's right, and nobody can tell me I'm wrong. Because you have to be a little bit of a megalomaniac to be a director. You have to be willing to say, "No, I'm right," even when everyone is telling you you're wrong. And
Is that how Joker 2 got made?
I like Joker too. I like Joker too.
I know you did.
I like
Joker too.
I haven't seen it. I'm just fucking around.
I will defend Joker too.
I'll defend the movie as
Not
well.
that
to
not that
watch
I
it.
need more fucking press on that.
I can't wait to watch it and then talk to you about it afterwards. Because Tim Dillon said it's the worst fucking movie that's ever been made, and he's in it.
I can. Well, that may have colored his perception, though.
Oh, but Tim thinks everything sucks. That's like the beauty of Tim. No matter what everybody's saying is amazing. Like Tim loves to talk shit about
I gotta
Austin.
tell you, what have I done? The funniest thing that I've heard for a while on YouTube when I was listening to you guys talk is he's a guy. I never really listened to his show or anything like that.
He's fucking brilliant.
But when he was on your thing talking about the election, and when he described Tim Walz is like, well, that guy's a goofball who just should be at a county fair eating hot dogs. I laughed for 15 minutes and played it back about 3 different times because I thought that was such a funny comment.
He's always funny. He said it sounds like Kamala Harris is doing voodoo curses. She's doing gypsy curses, he said. She speaks in gypsy curses. And he always does his show with these fucking crazy glasses on, like that's his new thing. If you ever watch his show, it's the best because it's